I got that God power. I got that God power. I'm rapping this God power. Nigga, that's God power. Hey, welcome back to that God Power channel. This is the channel where we're going to unlock the God power that's laying dormant on the inside of you. But first today, what we're going to do is we're going to continue breaking down the book of Matthew like we have been doing. If you haven't seen any of the older videos, I highly suggest that you go back and click on them because, again, like I say at the beginning of all these breakdowns, that the story is kind of chronological, and if you just are tuning in right now on chapter 10, then you're gonna miss a whole bunch, and I would just advise that you go back and just watch from chapter 1 up to this point. But other than that, I hope everybody is staying cool out there, because where I'm at, it's 115 degrees right now. But regardless, let's jump into chapter 10 and waste no more time. So at the end of chapter 9, Jesus was saying that the harvest is great, but the workers are few. So he prayed for the Lord. He prayed to God that he send more workers into the field. Now, starting off in chapter 10, Jesus, he calls all of his disciples together. So all the dudes that he wants to do the work, he called them all together. And he gave them authority to cast out evil spirits and heal every kind of disease and illness, just like he could do. So now there's Jesus and his duplicates, which are his disciples, walking around healing people and casting out demons all over the earth. And he had 12 disciples. The Bible makes a note to list each and every one of them so that we know who they are. So I'll list all 12 of them. 1, Simon Peter. 2, Andrew, that's Peter's brother. 3, James, which is the son of Zebedee, which if you didn't see that episode, I like to say the word Zebedee because it sounds cool. But 4, John, which is James' brother. So that's 2 sets of brothers right there. 5, Philip. 6, Bartholomew. That's a funny name. 7, Thomas. 8, Matthew, which is the tax collector, also the author of the book that we're breaking down. Number 9, another James, but this James is not Zebedee's son. This is Alphaeus' son. And then number 10, Thaddeus. Number 11, Simon. And then number 12, Judas. And those were his 12 disciples. Those were the people that he gave authority to go heal people, cast out demons, and do all the miracles that he was doing. So going on to verse 5, Jesus sent out the apostles, his disciples, with these instructions. He was like, don't go to the Gentiles or Samaritans, but only to the people of Israel. That's God's lost sheep. Go announce to them that the kingdom of heaven is near. And I want you to heal the sick, raise the dead, cure those with leprosy, and cast out all the demons. And give as freely as you have received. Breaking that down. Jesus is talking to his disciples, but he's also giving messages to the future generations like us. One of those key statements that he said was, give freely as you have received. And I'm about to take y'all ass to church real quick, because if you give freely as you have received, we have all received the grace of God through Jesus, because Jesus died for our sins. Therefore, all of our sins are forgiven already. So we've already received something like that. We've received that level of forgiveness, that level of grace. We're supposed to, as human beings, turn right back around and give each other that same level of forgiveness and that same level of grace. Yet, a lot of us are controlled by our emotions, where we let our emotions guide how we treat other humans, forgetting that we got the grace and we got forgiven from Jesus, and we got forgiven from God through Jesus. And that's how we should treat each other. We should be quick to forgive, remembering that we have that grace and we're being forgiven at all times for all of our sins. But going on to verse 9, Jesus is instructing them. He's like, don't take any money in your money belts. I'm imagining that's like a fanny pouch or something like that. He's like, don't take no gold, no silver, or even copper coins. And then he said, but don't hesitate to accept hospitality, because those who work deserve to be fed. Yeah, those who work deserve to be fed. All you have to do on this earth is work. You feel me? Do God's work and he's going to feed you. Going on to verse 11, He's like, when you go into a village, search for a worthy person and stay at their crib until you leave the town. When you enter that home, give it your blessing. And if the home is worthy, let your blessing stand. But if you find out that the home is not worthy, take your blessing back when you leave. I want you to shake the dust from your shoes and walk to the next town. Move on. Jesus makes a note to say that those wicked cities of Sodom and Gomorrah will be better off than a place like that on Judgment Day, because they won't try to hear the word. Going on to verse 16, he's like, I'm sending you as sheep among wolves. So I need you to be shrewd as snakes and harmless as doves. So he needs them to be cunning, ready to take action and whatnot, but harmless as doves. And going on, he says, but beware. You're going to be handed over to the courts. You're going to be hit with whips in the synagogue. You're going to go to trial before the kings and the governors because you're my followers. But this will be your opportunity to tell the rulers and other unbelievers about me. So in your times of peril, I want you to not look at it as times of peril. This is what Jesus is saying. He's saying, I don't want you to look at it your times of peril as times of peril. I want you to look at it as an opportunity to talk about me. I think that still holds up to today when you're going through trouble. Instead of talking about your woes, and not the woes running through the sits, but your problems. Instead of talking about your problems, why don't you use that as an opportunity to speak more about Jesus? Just straight from his mouth. Anyways, going on to verse 19. When you're arrested, don't worry about how to respond or what to say. God's going to give you the right words at the right time. For it's not you speaking. It's going to be the Spirit of my Father speaking through you. And then going on in verse 21, Jesus says, a brother's going to betray his brother to death. A father will betray his own child, and children will rebel against their parents and cause them to be killed. And all natives will hate you because you're my followers. But everyone who endures to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one town, flee to the next. I tell you the truth, the Son of Man will return before you've reached all the towns of Israel. So count on that. You feel me? So Jesus was telling them basically, if one town doesn't like them or they're trying to hate on them, then move to the next town and keep on spreading the word of Jesus to all of Israel that they can be receptive. And he's like, I'm coming back before y'all could even finish that. So going on to verse 24, Jesus says, students are not greater than their teacher, and slaves are not greater than their master. Students are to be like their teacher, and slaves are to be like their master. And since I, the master of the household, have been called the prince of demons, the members of my household will be called by even worse names. They're going to call y'all as Antichrist. They're going to call y'all the devil himself. They're going to call you Lucifer. They're going to call you all kinds of bad things that are worse than the prince of demons, because that's what they call Jesus. So Jesus was just giving them a heads up like, yo, everybody's not going to understand what you're doing and that you're working through the power of God. And some people, just like they did to me, they're going to confuse your God power with the power of demons. But Jesus goes on in verse 28 to say, don't be afraid of those who want to kill your body. They can't touch your soul. Fear only God, because he could destroy both your soul and your body in hell. And that's actually very true. Why would you fear a man when he can only harm your body? He doesn't have nothing to do with your soul. God controls both. So therefore have reverence for the God. And Jesus continues to talk and he says, what's the price of 2 sparrows? 1 copper coin? But not a single sparrow can fall to the ground without your Father knowing it. And then in verse 30 he says, and the very hairs on your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are way more valuable to God than a flock of sparrows. God cares about you more than he cares about the sparrows. Trust me, he put more time into working on you than he did them. That's kind of what Jesus is saying. I'm paraphrasing. And in verse 32, he says, everyone who acknowledges me publicly here on earth, I will also acknowledge to the Father in heaven. And I think that the flip side of that is if you're not acknowledging Jesus publicly on earth, there's the implication by inference that he's not going to mention you before the Father in heaven. So therefore, I would advise you get off your little high horse. And you know what I'm saying? All you know what's right in your heart. And so if Jesus calls you and he's asking you to speak about him, I would say don't hesitate. But going on, he's saying, don't imagine that I came to bring peace to the earth. I came not to bring peace, but I came as a sword. I've come to set man against his father, and daughter against her mother, and daughter-in-law against her mother. Your enemies will be right in your own household. And then in verse 37, he says, if you love your father more than you love me, you are not worthy of being mine. If you refuse to take up your cross and follow me, you are also not worthy of being mine. If you cling to your life, you're going to lose it. But if you give up your life for me, then you'll find it. I think that's worthy of breaking down. So let's take what he said and actually dive into it. It's like, if you love your father more than me, then you're not worthy of being mine. He's talking about your earthly father. If you can put any human being, whether it's your father, your mother, whomever, your godmother, grandmother, whoever, above Jesus, Jesus is like, y'all, you're not worthy of being mine. Because you're putting something before him. And God said, put no other idols before me. If you refuse to take up your cross and follow me, you're not worthy of being mine. Take up your cross. What does that mean? For me, that means stop doing your shit. Stop doing what you're used to doing and follow me. Put me first before everything. If you refuse to do that, you're not worthy of being mine. That's what Jesus is saying. If you can't just lay down whatever you're doing for Jesus, then he's telling you that you're not worthy of being his. And then also, if you cling to your life, you're going to lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. That's very tricky because it takes a lot of faith to play that out. If you cling onto your life, you're going to lose it. Meaning if you covet your life, if you hold tight onto it and your main focus is the things of this world, like leisure, power, popularity, financial security, the more we revel in that, or the more we just live in that kind of mindset of life, this material things in this world, then we realize how empty that life is. The best way to actually enjoy life is to get a grasp on our earthly rewards so that we can be free to follow Christ. And that's what he's saying is, if you can give up your life for me, give up all the things that you think that you like for me, I'll show you the sweetness of life. So that statement or that verse was actually pretty heavy, and I think that it needed a lot of breaking down. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. If you have any further interpretations of that verse, just, comment below or email me. But going on to verse 40, anyone who receives you receives me, and anyone who receives me receives the Father who sent me. And if you receive a prophet as one who speaks for God, then you're going to get the same reward as that prophet. And if you receive righteous people because of their righteousness, you're going to be given a reward like theirs. And if you give even a cup of cold water to one of the least of mine, you will surely be rewarded. And that's the end of chapter 10. Jesus wants you to know that if you're given to the people that are his, then he's going to reward you. You know what I'm saying? People doing God's work is the people that are his, who he's referencing to. So if you give to those people, and you give to the poor, which he also makes a huge note about in previous chapters, but the poor and the widows and all the people who actually need it, you will be rewarded. So hopefully you guys got something out of chapter 10. It was a lot of dialogue that Jesus was having between him and his disciples. Really, it was more so him just talking to them and teaching them how to be and what to do on their journey that they're about to go on. But it was a lot of insightful things. So if you like it, please press the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content. We're going to break down the whole book of Matthew. Chapter 11 is coming next. And if you want to get notified every time I post, just click that little bell and it's going to give you a notification every time I post a video. But other than that, thank y'all for rocking with me for chapter 10. I want you to have a beautiful day no matter how hot it is wherever you are. And remember that you got that God power.
Loving the God power. I got the God power.
Tap in the switch.
forces, caught in the vibes. I just thank God I'm alive. I just thank God that I'm fly. I just thank God for my rhymes. Every night, these lyrics that's up in my spirit, I know that you